And here is video number 2. We're going to do an overview, a verbal overview of our training guide. This is all paperwork that you can receive either digitally or on paper as a barista once you're hired. So this training guide basically goes over what we call our rules of beverages. We'll do a general overview. Again, you'll receive this in more than likely your training paperwork, but it's really important that we go through these in general, so when we go to the menu, everything will make a little more sense. So first of all, being a Liquid Planet barista, it really requires a number of important skills. Customer service is always top priority. Regardless of how busy you are, you want to understand each order. You want to be able to connect with the customer and make them feel welcome. Multitasking between the drink production and customer service is super critical. Being a barista is not an easy job. A lot of people think that it's pretty easy to make coffee, but it really takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of practice. And each espresso machine and even each location you might work at requires a different skill set. So learning how to multitask is really important. Having a high sense of urgency and speed is really critical. It takes a lot of practice, depending on the machine that you have, depending on the number of group heads, depending how busy you are, depending on the number of people that you have, and even the time of day. Obviously, an order at 8 in the morning is a lot different than potentially an order at 3 in the afternoon in the coffee world. Number 4, using recipes is really, really important. We have an exact recipe for every item. The complexity of beverage, though, is that customers add a lot of modifiers. An Americano is an Americano, but there's multiple sizes. You can get them hot or iced. You can get flavors added. There's different types of milk. There's whether or not people want room or not. There's all these different ways to make it, of course. But overall, an Americano is an Americano. So it's really important that we are very consistent on how we make things, that we understand all the modifiers and how to use them. But in general, there is one recipe for every item on our menu. So it's really critical that we are very consistent with those, that the quality is very high, and that we're very efficient when we make them. We always want to make sure that we use proper food and beverage handling requirements. We need to make sure that we're clean, that we're efficient, and that we clean up after ourselves after every drink and after every rush. And the last thing really is ensuring that we don't waste product. We want to make sure that we're accurate in measuring milk, in steaming milk, that we're not throwing it down the drain. That if we're producing espresso, that we're doing that properly and not wasting anything. The rules of engagement overall are really important. The barista rules of engagement are basically the rules of how we actually produce our product. You might have come from a Starbucks or a independent location and have trained to be a barista a certain way. Hopefully you understand that by being hired in and working at a Liquid Planet, we have our own ways of doing things. Just like anything else, a burger one place is much different than a burger somewhere else. And it's the same goes in the barista world. Not only is different equipment used, but we have different standards of quality, different standards of speed. So it's really important that you understand what we call the rules of engagement. So let's review those real quickly. Number 1, we always pour our espresso shots directly into the cup the customer's drinking out of, whatever we can. We do not want to use small shot glasses or any other vessel, whether it's stainless steel or glass, to dispense our espresso into that then gets poured into the cup. If somebody orders a 12-ounce Americano to go, you're gonna take a 12-ounce cup, you're going to add hot water to it, and then you're going to dispense the espresso shots directly into that cup. So we at all times, we do not want to use any glass or aluminum or stainless steel shot glasses unless we absolutely need to, which means that the cup they're drinking out of literally just doesn't fit underneath the portafilter while you're dispensing the espresso. Number 2, every drink made with steamed milk should be finished and served with latte art. Now, we're not talking about, ridiculously professional levels of latte art, but basic latte art, like a rosetta or an onion, shows your skill set as a barista. Customers are amazed when you can steam your milk properly and you can blend properly. The reason we want our drinks to be served with latte art is because, yes, it impresses the customer, but what it really does is it shows your skill set as a barista. Some baristas get a little freaked out about that and they think, oh my gosh, I could never get to that level. But after 5 or 10 minutes, any good barista can absolutely attain latte art with just a few simple techniques. But latte art pretty much proves that you understand how to steam your milk properly and that you know how to blend your espresso with your steamed milk and take care of that appropriately. So that's really important. Every drink should be made according to its exact recipe. That's really, really critical. Some companies really spike their drinks with a lot of sugar, right? So it's the coffee world. There's lots of flavors and lots of sugars. Our recipes are really about what we call the bliss point, where fats and salts and sweets are all balanced. We do not put excessive sugar in our drinks. We want a vanilla latte to not just taste like a bunch of sugar and vanilla. It should taste like a latte that has some vanilla in it. So just because you might like more vanilla in it doesn't mean that you should just add more because that's how you like it. Really, really critical that you follow our recipes so that the drink is balanced and it tastes good for the customer. Number 4, espresso shots should always be poured over hot water. Some of you might have been trained that shots go in the bottom of a cup and then you just pour hot water over the top and there's your Americano. That is really, really poor technique in the barista world. We want to preserve that crema, which is where all the flavor is. So in drinks like an Americano, you pour the hot water into the cup at an appropriate level, and then you dispense the shots over that hot water and then serve it. It's very important it's done in that way. Number 5, espresso shots should be dark brown. They shouldn't be light in color. They should each be about 1 to about 1.25 ounce per shot. So a double shot usually produces about 2.5, maybe a little bit more ounces, 2.5 to 3 ounces sometimes, depending on the machine. And they should generally take place 2 shots within about 18 to 30 seconds. 2 shots dispensed at 18 seconds might be great for that day. 2 shots dispensed at 30 seconds might be great for that day. Anywhere in that range typically is good. You should be trained as a barista to be able to visually look at your shots and make sure that they're good. But in general, they need to be the right volume. They need to take about the right amount of time, again, in that 18 to 30 second range. And they should be pretty dark. A good espresso shot definitely is not light in color. It's more like we call it a rat tail. It takes 20 to 30 seconds to dispense 2 to 3 ounces. And it should be real heavy in crema and definitely a darker color. Next, hot water should always come from a hot water dispenser or a drip coffee maker. This really depends on location and depends on what espresso machine you're using. But in general, if you use hot water out of an espresso machine, many espresso machines don't regulate the temperature of the water that comes out of its hot water wand. So we always want to use a hot water dispenser or like a hot water dispenser out of a drip coffee maker whenever possible. That's pretty important just to maintain proper temperatures. Next, all iced drinks with milk. Okay, so this is like iced lattes, right? We do a technique called what we call shot. Okay, so all iced drinks with milk must be shot using the steam wand. It's basically where we take the milk that's going to be used in that drink and we're going to shoot the milk. We call it shooting the milk, or you must be shot. And that's where you quickly steam the milk for about 2 to 3, maybe 4 seconds, depending on the volume. What you're doing is slightly warming that milk up. You're breaking up all those milk fats and basically denaturing the sugars. It brings out the milk's natural sweetness. There's a lot of lactose or milk sugar in milk, and we want to bring that out in an ice drink. If you make an ice drink with cold milk, just regular cold milk, and make it exactly the same as one that has been shot, or where we use slightly steamed milk that is then shot and then cooled down by adding ice to it, there'll be a drastic difference in flavor. Milk's natural sweetness comes out, and it's one of the tricks that we have in producing really good iced drinks with milk. So you'll be trained how to do that, of course, during training. Next, portafilters always need to be kept into the espresso machine during non-use. So portafilters need to always be basically in your group head. You don't want to leave them out where they're going to cool down. You want all the metal of the group head and all the metal of the portafilter to be exactly the same temperature, so that when you're dispensing espresso, everything works properly. If you don't do that, the portafilter will have cool metal. The group head will have hot metal, and when you put coffee in it and you hit the button and you're dispensing your espresso, the metal will contract based off temperature. So the hot water will hit it. It'll change size and literally loosen up your grounds inside your portafilter. So that's really important. Next, blended beverages should be pre-measured in the cup they're going to be served in to avoid waste. We do not measure our blended drinks in any vessel other than the cup they're going to use. So if somebody orders a 16 ounce, let's say 16 ounce, liquid asphalt, we want to measure all those ingredients in the 16 ounce cup and then put it in the blender or the shake machine. We do not want to, just throw a bunch of ingredients inside of the pitcher, the blender pitcher, because then it just isn't as accurate. So that's really important. Next, always taste test your drip coffee and your espresso shots in the morning. You want to make sure that they're good, that your grind is set for the day, or even for your shift. So that's really critical. Make sure that your drip coffee tastes good. And last but not least, there are what we call 5 main barista directives. Number 1 always is customer service. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. If a customer needs something, you stop what you're doing, take care of them the best way that you can. You can multitask and take care of that customer. The other 4, and in no particular order, but very, very important for a barista to maintain. Number 1 is speed. You got to be fast, of course. Quality, super critical that you're a good barista, that you understand your equipment, and that you're making really good quality drinks. You want to be crazy consistent. You want to use the same recipe every time. And last but not least, waste control. We want to make sure we're not wasting product. Don't waste cups. Don't waste plastic. It's bad for the environment. And especially in the barista world, don't waste milk. Don't steam milk and then throw it down the tubes and steam more. We'll get to that in the next video and explain how that works.